Hi, this is Kathy Andoke, one of your hosts. Join us as we share and discuss our knowledge about painting on the podcast. And I am so happy to have you here. Please keep on listening.
Good morning, everyone. I am Princess Nidatar, and I am from the Group 1. And today, we will going to present to you the topic about painting. But before that, let me introduce to you my partner for this topic, Miss Kathy Andoke. So now, we are going to introduce to you our objectives for today.
Oh wait partner, I have motivation of the day. Partner, did you know that life is a canvas and you are the artist? Which means that paint your dreams, color your experiences, and create your own masterpiece. So now listeners, please remember, life is a canvas and you are the artist.
At the end of this lesson, students should be able to explore a variety of media using painting. And last, appreciate the value of painting. So now, let's move on to our first topic for today, defining the painting. Do you have any ideas about the word painting? You, Kathy, do you have any ideas about the word painting? Or what was the first thing that comes on your mind when you hear the word painting?
For me, I think for me, painting can be an entertainment, I guess.
So, according to what I have researched, painting is a form of visual art where colors are applied to a surface, such as canvas or paper, to create images or designs. Artists use a various techniques and mediums like oil, acrylic, watercolor, or gouache to express their creativity and convey emotion or ideas. So now, Kathy, let's move on to our history of painting. So I guess most of us don't know the history of painting. So that is the purpose of this topic. Painting is one of the world's oldest art forms, and studying the pictures of our ancestors was help art historians discover a wealth of knowledge about our past. The history of painting could fill a lengthy book many times over, but for a quick run through of the most prominent period of Western art. So now there's kinds of painting in different centuries. First is the prehistory. The oldest known painting is approximately 40,000 years old, and early examples of painting by Neanderthal and prehistoric humans have been found all over the world. Painted using red ochre and black pigment, they usually depict common animals that were hunted, such as horses, rhinos, and lions. Next is the Middle Ages. The rise of Christianity dominated the majority of art in the Middle Ages, which placed emphasis on traditional iconography and religious figures. Illuminated manuscripts were one of most common style and were often painstakingly hand-painted with motifs and calligraphy. Next is the Renaissance. The painting style first emerged in Italy in 1400s. And the Renaissance covers a vast period up to mid-17th century. The movement affected not only art, but also sculpture, music, and literature, and is characterized by an artist in nature, individualism, beauty, and spirituality. Famous Renaissance paintings include Da Vinci's Mona Lisa and Michelangelo's The Creation of Adam. Next is the Rococo, also known as Late Baroque. This painting style emerged in France and Italy in the 1730s and is characterized by a highly decorative and lavish appearance. Common subjects of Rococo paintings include young nobles, pastoral scenes, or mythology. Next is the 19th century. The 19th century saw a rapid increase in expressions and art for art's sake as painters discovered themes beyond religion or history. Different movements include Romanticism, which saw a focus on landscapes, Impressionism, with its distinct visible small brushstrokes, and Symbolism, which drew inspiration from dreams and mythology. Last but not the least is the 20th century and beyond. Painters including Van Gogh, Gauguin, and Matisse were central to a development of modern art as we know it. One of the first emerging movements of the 20th century was Fauvism, a multicolored, expressive style that depicted both landscape and figures. By contrast, Cubism was far more analytical with focus on geometric form. Picasso is arguably the most famous of the Cubist painters, with works including Guernica and The Weeping Woman. The latter half of the 20th century saw emerging styles including pop art from artist Andy Warhol and Roy Lichtenstein. Abstract art is Kandinsky is one of this movement's most well-known artists, and Neo-Expressionism, which emerged the late 1970s and depicts familiar objects in a colorful, emotive style. So, do you have now any idea about the history of our painting? I hope you could learn, guys, because after this we will going to have a small quiz.
Hello, listeners. It's me, Kathy, your host, and I'm back again and again and again. So, painting has a lot of history, right? Thank you, Princess. We've learned a lot from you. So, did you know that painting has such things like elements? Yeah, this time we will have the elements of painting. And I'll introduce you to our first element, which is the color. Yes, color. Color is a painting element that is derived from light. So the color sets the tone, reflects the mood, and suggests the viewers how the viewers feel about the piece. Did you get that? Yes. So working with color means knowing the color theory, as this is essential in unifying and diversifying colors in a piece for artistic purposes. And now let us proceed to the next element, which is, I think everyone is already familiar with it. I think you are already familiar with tone, right? Are you familiar with tone? So yeah, guys, tone is the lightness and the darkness of a color. It is used to help show the differences of images from light to dark or dark to light. It helps to create illusion and dramatic effect on a painting. It gives depth, distance, and rhythm in a composition. It also helps to show contrast, harmony, balance, repetition, dominance, and union in painting. Now we have the third element, which is the line. I think everyone knows what line is, right? But let's dig deeper. A line is the foundation of all forms of drawing or painting, since it is the first outcome that artists create, which is very right. So it is a path that moves from one point to another, which forms the image created. Lines lead the eyes around and about a composition and help communicate the information or emotion expression. So now, guys, we are on our fourth element of painting, which is the shape. So shape are created through enclosed lines. So there are two types of shape, which is the geometric and natural shape. Form, on the other hand, is an element that refers to the dimensions of art: width, height, and depth. We are on our fifth element, which is the texture. So the texture is the surface quality of an object. It is perceived not just by sight but as well as by touch. Like other elements, texture convey messages. So we can feel texture, right? We can see texture. And let me share to you the three types, or it is types, I think. But let me share to you the three types of texture. The first one that I have is, or that I had rather, is the tactile texture. These are the textures that can be touched or felt. Next is the artificial texture, which is a man-made surface quality that are supposed to look and feel like the original material. Next is the visual texture, invoked by a photography or picture depicting an object. Now we have the composition. So composition is the art of arranging manner, the diverse element of the painter's command to express his feeling. And for our next element, we have the direction. So direction is also in the elements of painting, not only on highways and everywhere you go, but it is also in the elements of painting. Direction may also be used to refer perspective, where you place objects or how they are used in proportion to others can direct a viewer to arts. And we're on size. When it comes to determining the style of any piece of art, painters also have many things to consider. Oversized painting can be just as dramatic as a very small piece, and both have their challenges. All of the other elements affect how the viewer perceives and look at a painting. This is where time and movement comes into play. Well, time can be viewed as the amount of time a person spends looking at the piece rather. Movement is how you direct the viewer's eyes within the painting. So I guess that is all for the elements of painting. Those are the elements of painting, guys. I hope you listen, because at the end of this podcast there will be surprises, and I'll see you around.
Good day, everyone, and hello, Mr. Chidoro. How's your day?
I'm fine, Miss Aiza. How about you?
I'm good. So now, let's talk about the acquaint and distinguish the various type of painting. So, Mr. Chidoro, can you discuss what is realism, photorealism, painterly, impressionism, abstract, surrealism, and pop art painting? And what's their elements?
Thank you for your question, Miss Aiza. So, first, let's talk about the realism. Realism in painting is a style that aims to depict subjects in a true-to-life manner, without idealization or exaggerated. And other elements of realism in painting include attention to detail, accurate representation of light and shadow, use of perspective to create depth, and a focus on capturing the natural colors and textures of the subject. So, realism painters often strive to create works that closely resemble the appearance of the real world, conveying a sense of authenticity and truthfulness in their arts. And the second is photorealism. Photorealism is an art movement that emerged in the late 1960s and early 1970s, characterized by its highly detailed and realistic depiction of subjects, often based on photographs. And other elements of photorealism in painting include meticulous attention to detail, precise rendering of light and shadow, and a focus on achieving a high level of accuracy in depicting the subject. Let's proceed the painterly. Painterly is a term used to describe a painting style that emphasizes the brushwork and texture of paint itself, rather than trying to create a smooth, realistic representation of the subject. And their elements of painterly painting include visible brushstrokes, dynamic use of color and texture, and a focus on capturing the energy and spontaneity of the artist's hands. So let's proceed about the Impressionism. Impressionism is a painting style that emerged in the 19th century, characterized by an emphasis on capturing the fleeting effects of light and atmosphere. And their elements of Impressionism painting include visible brushstrokes, use of vibrant colors, depiction of everyday scenes, and an emphasis on capturing the momentary impression of a scene rather than focusing on precise details. Impressionist painters often work outdoors to observe and capture the changing qualities of light, resulting in works that have a sense of spontaneity and movement. Overall, Impressionism is known for its innovative approach to color, light, and composition in painting. And let's proceed about abstract. Abstract painting is a style of art that does not attempt to represent an accurate depiction of visual reality. Instead, abstract artists use shapes, colors, forms, and gestural marks to create compositions that are non-representational or non-objective. And their elements of abstract painting include the use of bold color, dynamic shapes, expressive brushworks, and a focus on the formal elements of art such as line, shape, color, and texture. And another one is surrealism. Surrealism is an artistic movement that emerged in the early 20th century, characterized by its exploration of the unconscious mind, dreams, and the irrational. And their elements of surrealist painting include unexpected juxtapositions of objects and distorted or dreamlike imaginary, symbolic motifs, and a sense of mystery or ambiguity. And surrealist artists often use techniques such as automatic drawing or painting to tap into their subconscious and create works that challenge conventional reality. And the last is pop art. Pop art is a movement that emerged in the 1950s and 1960s, characterized by its use of popular culture, imaginary, and mass media references. And their elements pop art painting include bold colors, graphic patterns, iconic symbols, and the appreciation of image from advertising, comic books, and consumer products. Pop-up artists often use techniques such as screen printing and collage to create works that reflect the vibrant and commercialized world of post-war America. And now for you, Aiza, what oil painting, watercolor, acrylic, pastel, gouache, encaustic, and the last is digital painting.
Thank you for that question, Mr. Chodorov. So first, let's talk about the oil painting. So, oil painting is traditional artistic technique that involves using pigments suspended in oil, typically linseed oil, and it has been a popular medium for centuries and is known for its rich, vibrant colors, long drying time, and versatility. And the elements of oil painting is support, ground, brushes, paint, medium, palette, easel, solvents, palette knife, and varnish. And next, watercolor painting. So watercolor painting is a technique that uses pigment mixed with water to create translucent layers of color on paper. And the elements of watercolor is paper, paint, brushes, water, palette, masking fluid, easel or board, spray bottle, paper towels or sponge, and palette knife or scraper and fixative. Next is acrylic painting. So acrylic painting is a technique in which artists use acrylic paints to create artwork on various surfaces such as canvas, wood, paper, and fabric. Acrylic paints are made of pigment suspended in acrylic polymer emulsion, which make them water soluble when wet but water resistant when dry. And the elements of acrylic painting support acrylic paint, brushes, palette, medium, palette knife, spray bottle, easel or painting, surface support, solvents, and protective varnish. And the next one is pastel painting. So pastel painting is a technique in which artists use pastel stick to create artwork on paper, board, or canvas. Pastel are sticks of pigment held together with a binder, typically made from gum arabic or gum sargacant. And the elements of pastel is paper, underpainting, layering and blending, color mixing, value and contrast, composition, fixative, experimentation and creativity, practice and patience. Next is gouache painting. So gouache painting is a technique in which artists use gouache, a type of water-based paint, to create artwork on various surfaces such as paper, illustration board, or canvas. Gouache is similar to watercolor in that it can be diluted with water and dries to a matte finish, but it has a higher pigment concentration, giving it a more opaque quality. And the elements of gouache painting support gouache paint, brushes, palette, water, masking fluid, opaque, white palette knife or scraper, fixative, protective varnish. And the next one is encaustic painting. So, encaustic painting is a technique that involves using heated beeswax mixed with pigment to create artwork. The word encaustic originates from the Greek word enkaustikos, which means to burn in. And the elements of encaustic painting is support, encaustic paint, hard sauce, brushes and tools, palette, supporting materials, fusing tools, ventilation, surface preparation, and sealing and finishing. And the last one is digital painting. It's a form of visual art created using digital tools such as computer, graphic tablet, and specialized software. Unlike traditional painting, which uses physical brushes and paints on canvas or paper, digital painting involves using digital brushes, colors, and layers to create artworks on a digital canvas. And the elements of digital painting is computer, graphic tablet, stylus or pen, digital painting software, brushes and tools, layers, color palette, custom brushes, reference image, and output devices.
So, hello guys, are you still with us? So, our next topic is to familiarize the famous foreign and Filipino painters in the world. Are you all excited to know it? Okay, so Crystal and I, also Giselle, will be going to tackle it. Right, Giselle and Crystal? So, let's start. Alessandro Di Mariano Divani Filippi, better known as Sandro Botticelli, was an Italian painter of the early Renaissance. One of his famous paintings was The Birth of Venus, probably executed in the mid-1480s. It depicts the goddess Venus arriving at the shore after her birth when she had emerged from the sea fully ground. Birth of Venus shows the goddess of love and beauty arriving on land. On the island of Cyprus, born of the sea spray and blown there by the winds. In addition of telling the Greek myth of the birth of the goddess, the painting also symbolizes the baptism. Hieronymus Bosch was a Dutch-Netherlandish painter from Brabant. He is one of the most notable representatives of the early Netherlandish painting school. And one of his famous paintings was The Garden of Earthly Delights. It is the modern title given to a triptych oil painting on oak panel painted by the early Netherlandish master Hieronymus Bosch between 1490 and 1510. The Garden of Earthly Delights, representative of Bosch at his mature best, shows the earthly paradise with the creation of woman, the first temptation, and the fall. The painting's beautiful and unsettling images of sensuality and of the dreams that afflict the people who live in a pleasure-seeking work expressed. Michelangelo di Lodovico Buonarroti Simoni, known mononymously as Michelangelo. Michelangelo was an Italian sculptor, painter, architect, and poet of the High Renaissance, born in the Republic of Florence. And one of his famous paintings was The Creation of Adam, also known as The Creation of Man, Plate 54. Is a fresco painting by Italian artist Michelangelo. It illustrates the biblical creation narrative from the book of Genesis, which God gives life to Adam, the first man. So, the most direct meaning in Michelangelo's creations of Adam is the moment when God created human life. As described in the book of Genesis in the Christian Bible, then God said, "Let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the heavens and over the livestock and over all the earth and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." Michelangelo chose to illustrate this moment with complete clarity, painting God reaching out to touching Adam's finger with his to create the first great spark of life. So the next foreign famous artist was Henri-Émile Benoit Matisse, was a French visual artist known for his both use of color and his fluid and original draughtsmanship. He was a draughtsman, printmaker, and a sculptor, but is known primarily as a painter. And his famous painting was The Dance in 1910. Shows a group of red dancers caught in a collective moment of innocent freedom and joy, holding hands as they whirl around in space. So simple and direct, the painting speaks volumes about our deep-rooted primal human desire for connections, movement, rhythm, and music. Next artist was Leonardo Piero da Vinci. Was an Italian polymath of the High Renaissance who was active as painter, draughtsman, engineer, scientist, jurist, sculptor, and architect. And one of his famous painting was the Mona Lisa. Mona Lisa bears a strong resemblance to many Renaissance depictions of the Virgin Mary, who was at that time seen as an ideal for womanhood. It was painted between 1503 and 1519. The proliferations of Mona Lisa's reflects, at least in part, the subject's almost immediate embodiment of the ideal woman, beautiful, enigmatic, receptive, and still just out of reach. Over the centuries, the quintessential woman has taken on a new life in popular culture. Next artist is Vincent Willem van Gogh. Vincent Willem van Gogh was a Dutch post-impressionist painter who is among the most famous and influential figures in the history of Western art. And one of his famous painting is The Starry Night. Starry Night is an oil-on-canvas painting by the Dutch post-impressionist painter Vincent van Gogh. It was painted on June 1889. It depicts the view from the east-facing window of his asylum room at Saint-Rémy-de-Provence just before sunrise, with the addition of an imaginary village. So the painting has also become a well-known because it's symbol of expressionism. Starry Night showcases the vast power of nature and the church spire and cypress tree, representing man and nature. Both point to the heavens. And the last one was Johannes Vermeer, also known as Jan Vermeer. Jan Vermeer was a Dutch Baroque period painter who specialized in domestic interior scenes of middle-class life. He is considered one of the greatest painters of the Dutch Golden Age. And his famous painting was Girl with a Pearl Earring. Girl with a Pearl Earring is Vermeer's most famous painting. It is not a portrait but a tronie, a painting of an imaginary figure. Tronies depict a certain type or character, in this case, a girl in exotic dress wearing an oriental turban and an improbably large pearl in her ear. It became iconic for the distinct position of the girl, her enigmatic gaze, the color, and the delicate quality of the light. The Girl with the Pearl Earring is a manifestation of beauty in simplicity.
Hello everyone, I'm Crystal Cervantes and here's my topic for this group. The 3 famous foreign artists and also the 3 Filipino famous artists and their major artwork. So, who are these famous artists? And what are the major artwork that till these days still exist? So, one of these 3 foreign artists that I'm going to discuss is Edgar Degas. He was a French impressionist artist famous for his pastel drawings and oil paintings. Digas also produced bronze sculptures, prints, and drawings. So, Edgar Degas, born in Paris, France on July 1834, also died in France at the age of 83 on September 27, 1917. He was known for paintings, sculpture, and drawing. One of his major artwork is the Ballet family, also known as family portrait. It is an oil painting on a canvas, a masterwork of Degas' youth. It's actually a portrait of his own relatives. The painting is a portrait of his aunt, her husband, and their two young daughters. Next, we have Dominicus Tritokoupoulos, most widely known as El Griego, was a Greek painter, sculptor, and architect of the Spanish Renaissance. El Griego was a nickname, and the artist normally signed his paintings with his full birth name in Greek letter, which means Cretan. El Griego was born on October 1, 1541, either Fidel or Candia, Crete. Died on April 7, 1614 at the age of 72, Toledo, Spain, known for painting, sculpture, and architecture. One of his major artwork, The Assumption of the Virgin. The painting was a central element of the altarpiece of the Church of Santo Domingo el Antiguo in Toledo, Spain. It was the first of his 9 paintings that El Griego was commissioned to paint for this church. The Assumption of the Virgin was El Griego's first work in Toledo and started his 37-year career there. Under the influence of Michelangelo, El Griego created a painting that its essence was Italian, with a naturalistic style, monumental figures, and a Romanesque palette. The composition of El Griego's depiction of the Assumption of the Virgin resembles Tatian's Assumption in the Basilica dei Frari in Venice, with the Virgin Mary and the angels above and the apostles below. On the painting, Virgin Mary floats upward, which symbolizes her purity, while apostles gather around her, empty thumb express amazement and concern. The last one we have for foreign artist is Caspar David Friedrich. Caspar David Friedrich was born on September 7, 1774, Greifswald, Swedish Pomerania. Died on May 7, 1840 at the age of 65, Dresden Kingdom of Saxony, German. Known for German Romantic landscape painter, generally considered the most important German artist of his generation. He is best known for his allegorical landscape, which typically feature contemplative figures silhouette against night skies, morning mist, barren trees, or Gothic ruins. The Monk by the Sea, oil on canvas, was Frederick's most radical composition. The broad expanses of the sea and sky emphasize the meager figure of the monk, standing before the vastness of nature and the presence of God. Arturo Gregorio de Mayuga Luz was a Filipino visual artist. He was also known printmaker, sculptor, designer, and art administrator. A founding member of the modern neo-realist school in Philippine art, he received the Philippine National Artist Award, the country's highest accolade in the art, in 1997. One of the major artwork of Arturo Luz is Bagong Taon. This painting is the most utter simplicity that belies careful, precise planning. Each object is there for a symbolic purpose. A tiny moon reveals it is evening, and a small cone represents the trumpet used during the New Year's Eve revelry, and a yellow-green background indicates that the action takes place outdoors. Jose Tanig Hoya was a Filipino abstract artist and a national artist of the Philippines, Owari. Hoya was a printmaker, painter, mixed media artist, and a former dean of the University of the Philippines College of Fine Arts. He pioneered abstract expressionism in the Philippines. One of his major artwork is Hills of Nico. It was one of the paintings exhibited in the 1964 edition of the Venice Biennale when the Philippines participated for the first time. Hoya later donated it to the nation. The last one we have for a Filipino artist is Anita Magsaysay Ho. Anita Magsaysayho was a Filipino painter, best known for her social realist and post-cubist portrayals of Filipino life and culture, notably and frequently portraying groups of women engaged in labor. Born on May 25, 1914 in Manila, Philippines, her most famous work includes Two Women, a painting portraying two Philippine women with white head wraps sucking corn together while smiling. Cooks featuring three Philippine women with pots full of food in front of them, and mending the nets, that shows two Philippine women conversing while stitching a net. All of these won first place in the Philippine Art Association.
Good day, everyone! Are you all excited? This is your host, Giselle G. Rojo, and today's episode, we will be tackled the continuation of Filipino famous painters. So, stay tuned. Did you know that we have different Filipino famous painters here in Philippines? Great! Our next Filipino famous painter is Fernando Amorsolo y Cueto. He was a portraitist and painter of rural Philippine landscapes. Nicknamed the Grand Old Man of Philippine art, he was the first ever to be recognized as a national artist of the Philippines. One of his famous paintings is Planting Rice. This 1921 oil painting by Fernando Amorsolo is the earliest known version of a series of works also titled Planting Rice, done by Amorsolo from 1921 to 1944. The motifs consist of a line of predominantly female and some male farmers planting new shoots of rice crops in a wet field position at the center of the compositions. Amorsolo's Planting Rice is a recapitulation of Fabian de la Rosa's 1904 prize-winning entry at the St. Louis World's Exposition, but situates it in a more suburban milieu. The highly sensualized depictions of women farmers also changed Amorsolo's narration of the rice planting scene from a depiction of agrarian economic production to a more nuanced association of agriculture with a female fertility and reproductive sexuality. Fernando Amorsolo paint planting because it reflects the arrival of the Americans in the Philippines and the idealism of the artist to the Philippine society. Are you all excited to know our next painters? Okay, our next painter is Juan Luna de San Pedro y Novicio Anqueta. He was a Filipino painter, sculptor, and a political activist of the Philippine Revolution during the late 19th century. He became one of the first recognized Philippine artists. His famous painting is Spoliarium. Luna's 1884 work Spoliarium, which features a realistic portrayal of slain gladiators in a symmetrical design, follows neoclassical ideals, gaining international recognition for Filipino art. This artwork is a statement on colonial tyranny in the Philippines. The Spoliarium shows the cruelty, injustice, sufferings, and helplessness experienced by the gladiators. It expresses a strong opposition to war by illustrating the atrocities of the Guernica bombardment. So, are you all excited to hear our next Filipino famous painter? Good! Next is Benedicto Reyes Cabrera, better known as Bencab. He was a Filipino painter who was conferred a National Artist of the Philippines for Visual Arts in 2006. He has been noted as arguably the best-selling painter of Filipino artists. One of his famous paintings is Sabel in Blue. Sabel in Blue is a major subject that recurs through Bencab's work through the decades, inspired by a real-life scavenger. He photographed and sketched in 1965. The subtle image has become the artist's vehicle for the transmission of intensely emotional moods. Next is Ang Kyuko. He was a renowned Filipino expressionist whose colorful and striking paintings portrayed a variety of cubist-like figures such as a mother embracing her infant, grisly crucifixions, tables holding an array of fish and fruit, stray dogs, and screaming subjects. One of his famous paintings is Crucifixion. Is an abstraction of the most recognizable religious subject matter and pays homage to the classic image of the crucifixion. Through the recognizable prominence of certain elements, the crown of thorns, hammered nails, and machinated ribs. The artist is known for his paintings expressing pain and agony, which were informed by his disillusionment in World War II and later. The alienation he felt during a trip to the United States in 1965. It was created during the Marcos period, which is 1960s. The reason why Ang Kyuko paint crucifixion is his personal desire to paint what he feels. Are you all good? Great! Our next painter is Fernando Zubel de Ayala y Montojo Torrentigui, also known as Fernando M. Zubel. He was a Spanish-Filipino painter, businessman, art collector, and museum founder. One of his famous paintings is Noche Clara. It's an oil canvas from a Zubel series Negra initiated in Madrid in 1959, which demonstrates the artist's effort to use the color black express powerful of space and motion. It was created on 1960. And then, our next painter is Carlos Botong Francisco. He was a renowned Filipino artist known for his contribution to Philippine modern art. He was born in Angono, Rizal, Philippines, and is widely regarded as one of the most important Filipino artists of the 20th century. His famous painting is Bayanihan. It's a cinematic celebration of the Filipino community spirit. This particular painting is a rare oil rendition of the original mural-sized work in the collection of a huge Filipino corporation. Carlos Francisco painted Bayanihan was on 1962. Its original action was the rural custom of townspeople, especially done by the males of lending a hand in carrying a neighbor's nipa hat to another location. Butong would thread all these meanings into a single powerful image that would embody the communal spirit of the Filipino. So guys, are you all excited to know who are our last Filipino famous painters? Good to hear that! So, our last Filipino famous painter is Cesar Torrente Legazpi. He was a Filipino national artist in painting. He was also an art director prior to going full-time in his visual art practice in 1960s. His early works, alongside those of peer Hernando Ocampo, are described as depictions of anguish and humanization of beggars and laborers in the city. One of his paintings is Gadgets. The painting is in the representational mode. The style itself is not realistic. The figures are distorted, their limbs elongated and transformed into machine parts. The men seem to metamorphose into machines in the industrial process. The theme is the dehumanization of human beings. Cesar Legazpi created Gadgets was on 1947, and it reflects the increasing importance of machines in the post-war industrialization period, as well as what he perceived was the insidious threat of human metamorphosing into machine. And that would be all, and thank you for listening.
And this is Kathy Andoke, one of your hosts, now signing off. Thank you and God bless.